Hello, everyone. My name is Mirna, and on behalf of the Mindalia TV team, we want to welcome you to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather daily to see the talks and interviews organized by Mindalia TV. Today, we're pleased to have Sylvia Becker Hill, the founder of the Becker Hill Women's Empowerment School. She is a professional women's empowerment mentor and leadership catalyst, top executive coach. Sylvia shows women how to unlearn the patriarchal superwoman rules and be successful in all areas of their life by simply being a woman. All that while supporting and training the men who want to be done with the patriarchal bondage too. Before starting, we want to remind you that if you want to help other people just like you to have access to the information we share in our channel, there's a couple of things you can do just by liking our channel, subscribing, or leaving us a positive comment down below. You help us reach as many people as possible. Also, while we are live streaming, we have the active chat. That is a tool that we have so you can participate actively in the interview. At the end of this talk, Sylvia will be kind to answer the questions that you have. Without further ado, Sylvia.
Thank you, my dear. I'm so happy to be here today and share my passion for love, for true love, for lasting love, for unconditional love with you and your audience. And I would like to make an important disclaimer at the start. Nowadays, we have such freedom of defining ourselves and our gender. So, what I'm going to share here today, independent if you identify yourself as a man or a woman or anything in between or beyond, what I'm going to share fits for everyone. So I'm not talking about the classic dichotomy of male, female, men or women. It's all about unconditional love and true love. Are you still there, my dear?
Yes, we're here.
The connection seems a bit weak. I can't hear you right now.
How about now? Do you hear me?
Perfect. Yes,
Okay.
wonderful. Okay, so let's get started. Why this topic, laugh differently? Well, we all have heard about Me Too. We all are experiencing every day the news, and we all know that we are living in very exciting historical times. The old patriarchal dominating culture is on the verge of breaking down systemically in all areas of society. So when it comes to love, there's in the moment a lot of confusion between the genders, the sexes, and I work now for over 20 years in the realm of leadership inside corporations. And so far, I have worked when it comes to the topic of love, rescuing marriages, helping my single clients find true love. I did it behind closed doors. But I feel called since a few weeks now to come out with that behind closed door knowledge. And today I'm very happy to be here to share this behind closed door secret knowledge with all of you because it pains me to see so many people not being in a fulfilled love relationship. I love love. I'm passionate about love. And I wish for you, wherever you live, whatever age you are, whatever orientation you have sexually and love wise, I want you to be happy and fulfilled. So, what I have prepared here today is to give you a glimpse into a new definition, into a new paradigm of what love is, and into 5 things you can do to stop sabotaging your success and your fulfillment in your love life. So, let's start with the definition. What is love? Very often, when I watch people, observe people, and hear when I interview them what they say about love, the standard paradigm of love seems to be it's like a cold, which I mean you catch it when you are somewhere at the right moment, the right place with the right people, and poof, yeah, here you are, Mr. Right, Mrs. Right, and bam, and love is suddenly present. And that is, I think, an illusion. And that's not a definition or an understanding of love which serves you. What do you think, my dear? Do you experience that in your circles or in your own lives, that people have this kind of love is like a cold and you catch it under certain circumstances or not? Do you have a similar experience?
Well, I think that's more like infatuation, right?
Well, and for a lot of people, it starts with that. And they think when that is not present, this infatuation, then they worry that this might not be love. The problem is when people think love has to be when you meet the right person in the right place at the right time, it has some conditions. And when you make love conditional, it will not last, it will not work, because everything in our world is changing constantly. So conditions change. You change. I change. The person we have been when we fell in love, we are changing. And the person we fell in love with is changing too. So as long you are coming from a paradigm where love is depending on certain conditions, you are putting yourself into a box which is doomed to fail. So the first invitation I have here for all the viewers and listeners is, please make sure that your understanding what love is serving your dream of true love and not sabotaging it. The next step is to understand, and this is something where I need all of us to be honest, to look into our own lives and into our own biography around love. I'm living now for 18 years in a blissful, wonderful marriage. Before that, I had over a decade of quite a lot of neurotic partnerships, some affairs, and even two engagements, which didn't work out. And if I wouldn't have been honest and would have integrated what I had experienced, the ugly, the pain, but also the beautiful moments, if I wouldn't have learned from that, I wouldn't have never grown to be able to have what I have now. So let's study a bit what we can watch not only on TV, but also in our own life. And sadly, way too often in our friends' circles, I call it the love drama. And the love drama is like a hamster wheel. It's certain phases where Hollywood thrives on it. We love these movies. I mean, seriously, would you go into a movie where people are just happy all the time and blissfully in love and everything is fine? No, we go into movies where there is tension, where there is drama, where there is strong emotionality. So these phases, what I have distinguished is there's first the falling in love high, oh, the butterflies, the infatuation, the hormones, and these super high. That high can't last, just neurophysiologically in our brain, but also hormonally. So after that comes the honeymoon phase. Wonderful. Everything is perfect. We are in love. We relax. We share our love with the world. That then changes when we get into daily bliss. So we turn this more short term honeymoon phase, which often is connected with a honeymoon, where we travel, where we do extraordinary things. Now, after that, we start to share our everyday life, which is beautiful. We maybe move together, where maybe we share a business together, maybe we share other things, hobbies. We start to live daily together. And now it comes, because everything changes. We change, our expectation changes, our circumstances might change. And this is where, sadly, most people, and I explain later why, they start to fall out of love. And I call it the falling out of love hell, because it's a shock. Because for our mind, for our ego, we believe this must last. This is so perfect. This has to last because he is it or she is it. Finally, the one. But then hell starts. We have misunderstandings. We have conflicts. We start to hurt each other. Some kind of monster shows up between us, and we don't even know exactly what is going on. And then a lot of people go through a very painful break-up showdown, where you start projecting onto each other, where the fights come in, where someone is maybe banging doors, and you break up. And that is just super, super, super painful, because it also triggers in our brain old memories from early childhood of abandonment, of fear, of being alone. And then for a lot of people, a very lonely pain phase comes now. And again, most people are not only dealing with the loss of that person or the loss of that relationship, which is currently happening. Most people get triggered in the brain into old experiences of pain from the early childhood or later, depending what you went through as a child, if your parents went through a divorce, etc. All these things can be re-triggered when you are going through your own breakup in your love life. So after the lonely pain phase, you integrate, you come out of it. Maybe some friends pull you out of it and invite you to parties, trying to start matchmaking for you, and you start your hoping and dating phase. And then you have like this hamster wheel and it starts again. So you hope, you date. Nowadays you do online dating. You have a new list of how Mrs. Right or Mr. Right has to look like or be like. And with that list, you go onto the market online or in person. And then you, wow, at the right moment, right time, you fell in love and the hormones are there and the affectuation. And we have the hamster wheel of love again and again and again. And I can say that so clearly because I've been in that wheel several years of my life, and it is exhausting. It is a roller coaster of emotions. It's physically draining, and it is not serving us to really grow in our own personal evolution. And it's not really bringing us the love of our dreams, the lasting partnership, the partnership which I hope most of you want of equals, of eye level, because that is where our evolution right now as society is really moving towards to. The patriarchy, where men were the dominant gender and women were below, these kind of status, which we still have in most countries all over the world, this is shaking up. The Me Too movement is just one of these things. Evolution is in the moment toward all the trends. In a few years, I can't promise you how long it will take, but I only can promise you we are going in this direction. We are, as a humanity, in our evolution, moving towards true partnership between men and women. And a lot of couples worldwide are already experiencing it. We see it in the leadership circles of corporations, that those companies who have a clear diversity of genders are way more creative. The bottom line is much more stable, grows faster. So, on all levels of society, we are moving towards that. And the first step for all of us to get there is to recognize honestly where are we stuck in this drama cycle, and to break it, to really make this commitment to ourselves. Enough is enough. No more pain around love. Love is way too beautiful. And sadly, I know there's a beautiful song, Love Hurts. And I don't like that song because it reinforces this addiction people have for the drama, nearly for the pain, for the tension between the unreachable, the unapproachable, the person which they think they can't have. So this is all part of an ideology, of a definition of love around drama, around pain, which is not true, which is not serving. And we all have to recognize it and say clearly, no, no more, nada, basta, niente, not ever again, and step out of it. Anything you would like to share or comment, my dear?
Well, actually, it's very interesting, and I think that that idea of the wheel, I would love to hear more about what you said. Like we are stuck at one point in the wheel. How do
Yes.
we identify where we're stuck at?
It starts to be with being honest, with really looking into your own life, sitting down when you as an adult experience the same situation with the same man, or even if you change your partners, independent if it's men or women, when you change partners but you experience the same, so when there's a repetition of pattern, that is always a red flag. If you are stuck in a pattern, then you are the common denominator. You are the origin of that pattern. And another way of figuring out what's going on is to have a conversation with the people who know you. For example, in my early 20s, I was stuck for 6 years in a very neurotic partnership where with that man, I had this cycle every few months. So when we broke up the first 2, 3 times, all my girlfriends, they were so compassionate and they were soothing me and crying with me. And oh, they were lovely. But after experiencing the drama circle 3 times with me, they started to be bored. They were like, Sylvia, you said that a year ago, exactly the same things. When will you stop being with that man? He doesn't, you are not fitting together. He doesn't serve your life's purpose. It's painful to watch. So sometimes our friends see the cycle and the drama cycle much earlier than we can. So if you can't honestly see it yourself, ask your closest friends. And real friends have the courage to tell you the truth, even though it's maybe something you don't want to hear in the first moment. But I think this is how I define true friends, who are not shying away to tell me what everyone else is also seeing, but doesn't have the courage and the trust that our relationship will survive that by telling me the truth. So if we can't put the mirror for ourselves in front of us, then our friends, our close circles are the best mirror to see what we are doing. So understanding the love drama cycle and stepping out of it and making a commitment is really the step number one for most people I see to get on the path of true love where they really want to be. What's super, super, super helpful to do that, and it's something very unusual, and I was maybe a bit extreme, and maybe it comes from my cultural background. I'm German. I love high engineered things. I love to study university. So for me, when I realized in my mid 20s that I was stuck and that I was doing something which was not serving me, I put on literally the researcher hat. I changed my whole life, literally my university degree. I wanted first to become a teacher for German literature and linguistics and philosophy, etc. And I changed my university degree and my private life to dedicate my life to the research, to the question, what do men and women truly need in order to come together in love, peace, and harmony? Because I remember I was walking past a wall. It was close, somewhere close to Berlin. There was a wall, and there was in huge letters was a big quote on the wall, and it said, "There can't be peace on this planet as long there is war between men and women." And oh my gosh, even right now, after now 25 years, saying that, I feel the strong resonance. I believe this is absolutely true. So I put on the research hat and asked myself, what is it? What do we need to come in peace and harmony together? And putting on a research hat is not only an abstract metaphor. I mean this very literally and seriously, because when you look as a researcher onto your own love life, you are detaching yourself. You are putting your love life, your heart, your relationships in front of you under the microscope, and you are looking at it. So you are not any longer in the center of the drama. You're not any longer identified. And that distance, that position as a researcher helps you to be honest and to see what's going on and to analyze it and understand it. And now I'm saying something which might I push some buttons or step on people's toes, and I'm not apologizing for that, because sadly a lot of people react, manage, or deal their love life like an addict, like a drug addict, where this high of falling in love and the tension of controversy, of conflicts, and then coming back together and maybe having sex because the tension was so big, and now we have wild sex and it's even wilder because the tension of the conflict was so big. This is not the healthy rhythm or responses of mature adults. These are the responses of addicts who are addicted to a certain drug, which is a chemistry high in the brain, the high of falling in love, the high or low of falling out of love, the tension. So dealing with love like an addict doesn't serve you or anyone. And it can even become dangerous if you are having an kind of instability. You maybe end up in depression, or you may maybe end up taking real other drugs, alcohol, or it ends up sadly way too often, which we could see also through Me Too, way too often into aggressivity against one of the people in the system of this love relationship. So stepping out of the love as addiction kind of attitude and putting on a researcher hat and distancing yourself from your own love life and looking at it and discussing it maybe even with your friends, that is something I did intensively for a few years. I started to study gender studies, so I turned my whole university degree around. I was a pioneer back in Germany, asking permission from all my professors to keep studying what I did, but always from the gender perspective. And it's fascinating. It's like a filter you put in front of your eyes, and suddenly you see it everywhere. I mean, our whole culture, the patriarchal culture, is infused with gender biases, with this whole patriarchal, you know, God is male, so therefore everything male is better and everything female is of lower class. And suddenly you see it everywhere. And you can't have a lasting, fulfilled partnership on eye level when subconsciously you are still believing into this really outdated, sorry, old crap. So that's another tip. Put on your research hat, step out of the drama, and make really sure you're not getting addicted to the love high or the love low, because the tension is so exciting. We pay money for that when we go to the movies, and that is okay for 2 hours to experience the emotional tension and then the relief. But staying stuck in that, which I see a lot of people doing over years, I was stuck 6 years in this kind of neurotic partnership. It's not serving you and it's not serving your environment, and it can have even dangerous side effects for your own physical health, emotional health, and even for our society. I truly believe happy in love people don't kill other people. Any comments or things you would like to add or ask, my dear?
Well, I just really liked what you said about the wall and until men and women are not at peace, there's not going to be a world that's going to share peace. And looking forward to hear more. Like,
Okay,
how does
okay.
that happen? How were you able to move that patriarchal thought or train of thought towards a more
Yes,
balanced?
yes. So the next tip I would like to share is there are certain, how can I say, like demands or expectations in the love industry, in the self-help books, in the love coaching industry. And there are certain things I hear a lot. And I don't want to, there's one specific thing, and I don't want to make it wrong or criticize it, because I believe that a real truth has, in the essence, as proof that it is a truth when the exact opposite is also true. So there is something which people in the love industry say, and I see it running through social media on these nice quotes, posts, in these squares, and it says, you have to love yourself first before you are able to truly love someone else. And then I see this as a post on Facebook, for example, and people liking it and sharing it, and okay, the thing is, if that were really true, or were the, let's say, were the only truths, most of us would be really, really screwed. Because I think, I'm honest, loving myself, for me, that's a lifelong journey. I believe loving ourselves is one of the biggest, biggest challenges and most beautiful goals we can have. And it's a lifelong journey. But do you want to wait till the end of your life to finally have a fulfilled love life and the partner of your dreams? I don't. I want to have it now. So I believe, and this is the experience my clients have and I have in my own life, that you can learn to love yourself much easier and faster when you are in a relationship where you love someone else first. So, to be very practical, loving my husband unconditionally and experiencing to be loved back by him unconditionally too created this safe, beautiful healing container in which I learned to also love myself. Am I finished? Am I 100% there? No, I don't think so. There's still always a more level or some degrees I can grow more, but I can say, yes, I love myself. Is it 100% unconditional? Some days, yes, some moments. I don't need to accomplish something big in my business or reach a certain goal, which is a condition to love oneself. I don't need to lose first a certain amount of pounds to love my body. No, I can say now I love my body the way it is. I love myself the way I am. And do I have bad days and bad moments where I can't say that authentically? Sure, sure, I'm still human. But my point is, I want you to liberate you and take away this, what I perceived as a pressure and heavy burden when we really buy into this demand or command. You have to love yourself first in order to be able to love someone else. I want to invite you to play with the possibility that the exact opposite is as true as this sentence might be for a lot of people, that you will learn to love yourself through loving someone else first. Because the brain is very simple the way it thinks. When the brain, for whatever reason, doesn't love yourself, but you love someone else, the brain gets the training, how it feels like and how does it look like to love someone unconditional. And by doing that with someone else, then it becomes easier to transfer that and learn that and do it on yourself as well. And when you are in an unconditional love relationship, a lot of rules of the patriarchy and a lot of these in our brain ingrained biases of men are higher than women, etc., that evaporates by itself. Because when you are loving unconditionally, the condition, oh, you have to be the breadwinner and I have to be the housewife and you care for the kids, all these old classic, I call it the Doris Day and Rock Hudson's from the 50s, like this paradigm of clear work division and who does what, etc. All these things, they fall away and change into more like organic flow. My husband and I, we are now together for 18 years, and the amount of what does who and where in our everyday life, it changes. When he has a stressful phase in his job, I might do more in the household, but well, that's not really true. I'm not so much passionate about household stuff, but it's what I try to say is it's more an organic flow. It's not a classic, okay, you always do this and you always have to do that. And it's not also static. Again, when you are loving with confidence unconditionally, it doesn't matter when conditions change because you stay flexible and just go along the flow. Does that start to answer a bit the question you had?
Yes, yes, actually, and that's completely new for me because I'm a big supporter of the conquer your own territory before going anywhere else. But it's a very nice approach. Like, why wait? Why wait years before you get to conquer yourself if you can, start practicing somewhere else?
Yeah.
Why not, right? Sounds really good.
And, and what you just said is a perfect intro to my next point, my next tip. What is standing between you and Mr. Right or Mrs. Right? And it might sound now as if I were contradicting myself, but I'm not. I'm just taking your words. There, what's standing between people in general is always our past. Our past experiences with other people, with another lover, with another partner. When we got hurt or disappointed, our ego in our beloved brain, and let me quickly turn around and grab my brain model here. Our beloved brain is an organ which is like a sponge. It takes on everything, and especially as children, everything we experience in our environment. We watch our parents, we watch our siblings, we maybe later watch TV. The brain is like a sponge. Everything goes inside, and nothing gets forgotten, especially in the parts here, the back of the brain. So when in our past we got hurt, we got disappointed in a love relationship, our ego, which is in both hemispheres, again, in these older parts of the brain and not so much in the neocortex here, our ego wants to protect us. So when we now go into a new relationship, so called new, our ego is trained from the past experiences to roll out now certain protection mechanisms. And some of these protection mechanisms are sadly not serving a really new relationship. So when you said that you have learned or believe you have to first clean up your own territory, there I totally believe there is a truth in there. And yet cleaning up your past by integrating it, by learning from your past relationships, this is different from the command and the pressure you have to love yourself first before you are able to love someone else. So I think there are different evolutionary processes which are working parallel. So we can work on our past by integrating past relationships, by forgiving past partners, the hurt we think they caused us. We can forgive ourselves for bad choices we made in the past. There are a lot of beautiful ways to come to terms and peace with the past. And why is that important? It's important that you don't put your past literally because of your brain between you and the new person. Because when you are not integrating your past, what you create, which I see sadly a lot of people running around, and this is now a very practical tip. If you know, all the viewers and listeners, if you want to do something really practical to revamp your love life, one of the biggest things you can do is a ritual where you take your list, you know, the list. The list is all the criteria you have written down as a vision how Mr. or Mrs. Right has to look like, feel like, what kind of job they should have, what kind of hair color, or how tall, what hobbies, etc. I mean, I, the thing is, most people believe that the list is a beautiful vision. And a lot of people, especially when they are students of the law of attraction, they believe as clearer and more detailed my list, as more guarantee I have to attract and find the right partner, Mr. or Mrs. Right. The problem with the list is that for most people, it's not a real vision list. A vision list comes from a far away future, from your full potential, from your dream, from magic, from what is possible. Most people's list is not written from the future. Most people's list is sadly written from their hurt ego, from their past, and they write a list thinking, oh, I learned from my past mistakes. Now, okay, the last person was blonde, so now the next one has to have dark hair, or the last person had dark hair and hurt me, so now the next person has to be blonde. So most people write their list not from potential magic and vision from the future. They write it from the past with the goal to protect themselves from the pain they experienced in the past. So if you want to do something very practical, take your list you think is so serving you, write everything down, and then burn it. Burn the list. Burn the list, because your higher self, your intuition, your angel team, the divine, the universe, God, whatever you believe in as a higher power, knows so much better who serves you and who fits you than your tiny, beautiful ego, in your brain, which is just committed to keep you safe. I mean, this is a huge difference. Your brain is not wired or committed for your happiness in your love life. Your brain is wired and committed for your survival. So the list you wrote is a list for survival, but not a list to make you happy and fulfilled. So if you only take one advice from me here today, then it's that: burn the list. Please repeat, everyone, out loud after me: burn the list, burn the list, burn the list. I mean, if I were a songwriter, I would make a song out of it: burn the list. Yeah. And would burn all songs which have sentences like love hurts. Yeah, because this is not the right indoctrination for our brains. So make sure that you integrate and clean your past, so that you are not stepping as a single into the market field of partners from a fear based, pain based paradigm, and start come from magic, come from full potential. And that was for me a challenge, to learn to be humble, to not know how your perfect partner might look like. When my husband and I, when we met and fell in love, I'm from Germany. My English at that time, it was in January 2000, was okay, but not very good. My husband is from New Zealand. He only spoke English. He didn't speak a word German. And we met in the middle between New Zealand and Germany at a conference in Orlando, Florida. So from a lot of superficial, tangible perspectives, he and I, we were so not a fit. Our upbringing was different. Our cultures were different. He was even like visually, for the first look, he was not my type. My old list, I saw him and I ticked him off the list because he was not my type. And thanks God, between my first meeting him and falling in love, there were a time span of 2 days, and I had a sleepless night and did a lot of processing and realized, oh my gosh, the list is one of those things which is standing in my way between me and true love. And I burned the list. I made a big brainstorm of everything I believed my ideal partner has to have. And that was one crucial puzzle piece to being able to love my husband, my now husband, in an unconditional way, even though superficially he would have not fitted the list. He was not my Mr. Right. And it turned out the universe, whoever brought us together, had they knew much better than I did who my real true Mr. Perfect is. So he's not Mr. Right, but he's my perfect Mr. Perfect, just for me. Anything you would like to add to burn the list?
Burn the list, burn the list. Yeah, I actually have to agree with you. I've realized that there's no pattern. You can find the people that you just click with, regardless of the background, culturally or physically. And that is something that I have in mind now. Physicality has nothing to do, at least to me, with what you're supposed to want. But
Yes.
give us more. What's the next tip?
Okay, so we are now at the last tip, and I think that's good time-wise, so that we have space here for some
Mhm.
Q&A. The last tip, and that is a bit challenging to do for most people alone. So the last thing I highly recommend, if you know that there are some issues, that you work with a professional, a therapist, a coach, a love mentor, someone who is professionally trained like me to do that. The last thing for me is, when you find or create or attract the right partner and you want to make the love last, you have to protect that love from your own unfulfilled needs. This goes a bit back to what I said at the beginning, that a lot of people treat their love relationships like an addict. An addict has a need, has an emotional need, and believes the drug can somehow soothe that hunger, that urge, that itchiness, that scratching, the need. So the need in all of us is the aspect which in psychology we call it our inner child. So our inner child is again in our brain all the programming from the first 6 years of our life. And whatever need was not met, the need maybe for safety, the need for feeling understood, the need for feeling connected, bonded, the need for appreciation, the need for recognition, whatever needs didn't get fulfilled in our early childhood, they are still in our brain. So it's our job when we are adults and we are maturing to give ourselves what we didn't get when we were children. And every healthy human being can do that. And as I said, sometimes if you are not trained or you have no access to your inner child, ask a professional to help you, because it's surprisingly simple to have an inner dialogue with your own inner child. And I mean, I do that. I talk with my inner little girl. I give her space in my life. I have an art studio with some kind of bunk bed, which I gave her as a space to fill, to decorate, and it's always pink and unicorns and rainbows, and like this here on my desk, that this is standing on my desk. My little girl makes me put that on my desk. So I have a very conscious relationship with my inner little girl, and I make sure that I fulfill the needs of my inner little girl. So I don't project the expectation onto my husband that he has to do that, because that is a pressure which sadly most love relationships long term don't survive. So when it's like two hungry little kids in the bodies of adults are meeting each other and both project, oh, thanks God, I finally found you. Now you are responsible to make me happy because I can't fulfill my own needs. Uh, no, doom, doom, doom. I mean, not every relationship like this has to, break apart. There's also the way, and I saw it with my parents, sometimes they get stuck in the system and they can survive and be married together for 50 years or longer. And yet from an external perspective, you can see it's not two adults who live in on eye level partnership love relationship. It's a different kind of love relationship, but that would be a different conversation, because there's an evolution in love. There's an evolution of love relationships over the last 7,000 years in our collectiveness as humanity. And there's also an evolution of love we as humans in our own biography, when we grow old, go through. So you can live love relationships on different levels of evolution. But if you want, this is my goal for you or my wish for you, you want to have a partnership on eye level, unconditional love relationship, it is important that you take full ownership and responsibility for your inner needs, for your own hunger, and don't expect and don't project all your needs onto your beloved partner and make him responsible, because that would be like you regress into your little child and make the other one your mother or your father. And I I don't want to have sex with my mom or dad. I want to have a beautiful, fulfilled sex and love life with a real partner. So that's it. These were my tips for today I had prepared. How are we on time?
Thank you, Sylvia. Actually, yes, we're right on time. We want to thank you on behalf of the Mindalia TV team. It's been very, very, very valuable knowledge that you shared with us today. Thank you. But we're gonna go to the Q&A section, and we have a couple of things that we want to say before we go there. Just remind our audience that if you want to help other people like you to have access to the knowledge we share here in Mindalia TV, there's a couple of things you can do. Just subscribing to our channel, liking this video, or leaving us a positive comment down below. You help us reach as many people as possible around the world. This is our mission. We are a non-profit organization, non-governmental organization. All we want is to raise consciousness in the planet, and we are committed, and we are convinced that by sharing positive and useful information with others, we help make this planet a better place. And now we're gonna go to the Q&A. Sylvia, you're not gonna see me, but I'm gonna be right here behind the screen. Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna go to the first one. Can you hear me right?
Yes.
Okay. It says, how can I erase all my past wounds?
Okay, that's a very beautiful and empowering question. So, first, I would say it's not so much about erasing all wounds. I'm not sure that might create too much pressure. So, I would first use a word more like healing or integrate. And you don't, and again, you don't need to have the pressure that you have to heal, integrate all past wounds before you can go into a healthy partnership, because a healthy, loving partnership creates the best, safest space to do even more healing. And especially when you stay long together with someone, my husband and I, we both grew and healed a lot of our past. So how do you do that? So not knowing your specifics, there are different paths and ways to do that. There is therapy, there is coaching, there are books out there which have like processes in them. There are tools. For example, what I used for several years intensively with myself and my clients is so-called emotional freedom technique. And you find on YouTube a lot of beautiful videos about that. It's a methodology where you use your own fingertips and you start tapping on certain acupressure points, and you talk about your wounds, about past experiences. For example, betrayal, where you are still mad on someone who really, really hurt you deeply, and you are not yet ready to forgive that person or yourself. Tapping is a beautiful methodology to work in a astounding short amount of time through these kind of things. Again, some people have talent to do it themselves, or they have training to do it themselves, and you don't have to. We are living at a time where there's a lot of things here like Mindalia on YouTube available, and there are professionals like me you can hire to help you. And as I said, start with compassion for yourself. Everyone has wounds. I've never met any any human being without wounds. Living means creating wounds. So the wounds themselves are not bad. They are often a door to awareness, to insights, and to loving ourselves more compassionately. And they are not a hindering reason for you to start a love relationship, as long you are not making the other person responsible for healing you. That's an inside job. We can only do it ultimately ourselves, but we can get professional help or inspiration from what we get online. I hope that serves the person who asked that question.
Thank you, Sylvia. Next question. How can we overcome fear of abandonment?
Ooh, that's a good one. The fear of abandonment also is from super early childhood. So, to overcome that fear is, for example, what I do, talking daily with my inner little girl, with my inner child. I have fear in my office. I made a vision board, a collage, where I started to visualize her. I cut out of magazines little girls and quotes, and I added some old photos of myself, and I used also tapping to talk with her. So there is so-called timeline work. It comes from your linguistic programming. So you can go back into your own biography. You can heal specific incidences where you experienced abandonment and integrate those. And the most important thing for going now into the future is to promise your inner little girl or boy, and to keep that promise, that you are not abandoning yourself. I mean, as long you are alive, why would you? I mean, that is so easy. You have yourself always, but it's about awareness. It's about loving yourself in a way that you trust yourself to not abandon yourself. And especially as a side note for women, this is also going into self care. Most of my top executive clients, my female clients, they don't have time for so-called self-care. They are always too busy. They are working too hard. Self abandonment shows up as a lack of self-care. So positively formulated, to reduce your fear of abandonment, start with being there for yourself, up level your level of self-care, talk with your inner child, be there for yourself, so that even if someone else ever would abandon you, a girlfriend, boyfriend, lover, partner, it will not scare you or hurt you as deeply as it would have done so in the past, because you have still yourself. You are not abandoned in that essence. And speaking of essence, another framework, and I know here at Mindalia we can talk about this, there's also the spiritual realm. Depending on your faith, what kind of belief system you have, when you have a stable, trusting, strong relationship with God, universe, nature, whatever you call the big divine power, and you know that this is unbreakable, that connection, the fear of abandonment goes down as well. Because when that connection is unbreakable, well, if some human connections break over time because we all change or move away or things happen, again, it doesn't hurt you or go as deep when you have that. So these are two ways. One is going bigger, spiritual, connecting and feeling the connection with all that is, or going inward into yourself and making sure you never abandon yourself.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Next question. I keep having the same scenario, the emotionally unavailable man. What do I need to do what do I need to change in me to break the
Hmm.
cycle?
So I repeat the question because yeah, so I heard it's about how to break the cycle of always choosing again unavailable men. Was that
Correct.
the
That is what it
question?
means. It's
Okay,
the same
okay.
scenario, the
Yeah,
emotionally
say,
unavailable man.
okay. It goes a bit in the direction that my answer with the abandonment, because I believe that our external reality, what we see, what we experience, what we attract, is a reflection of our internal world. There is this beautiful ancient Indian saying, Tatsam Asi. What is out there is what's in there, or as above though below. It's like these ancient esoteric principles. So when there is again and again the pattern that someone out emotionally unavailable, I would sit with myself, become very still, very humble and honest, and would ask myself, where am I not emotional available? Where am I not emotionally available for others? But even more important, where am I not emotionally available for myself? In my case, for example, in my biography, for a lot of years, I ignored my body. It was so healthy. I never had any issues with it. I brushed my teeth and had showers, but that's it. Yeah, I didn't care for it. I didn't do any sports. I didn't, laugh. I just took it for granted till my body started to show symptoms and stopped functioning, because I was not emotionally available for my own body. I was not sensitive enough, not open enough to feel any precursors of symptoms. The attempt of my body to communicate with me didn't reach me because I was not emotionally available. So this is how I would start. See where you are not emotionally available, and see what you need to feel safe to be emotionally available. Because behind a person externally you meet or in ourselves, emotional unavailability is created out of fear. The fear of getting hurt, the fear of getting abandoned, or the fear of even feeling our own feelings. Because for some people, and that goes back to neurophysiology, when we were very, very young and we experienced big situations like traumatic events, someone maybe abusing us, yelling at us, or beating us, or our parents, something horrible happening in front of us, the amount of neurophysiological chemical chemistry being produced in the brain, hormones and peptides, and flushed into our bloodstream and our body for our tiny baby toddler bodies, that felt so overwhelming, so intense. It created a huge shock, a huge fear. And a lot of people then, even though when they grow older and are adults, they still have this deep rooted fear of getting overwhelmed by their own emotions. So they don't want to feel them, because feeling your own emotions can be scary. So being emotionally unavailable is always sourced by some kind of fear, and having the fear of feeling your own feelings is part of that. And again, one great method to integrate that and to gently allow oneself to feel their suppressed or ignored feelings or their own body, which was my case, tapping, emotional freedom technique, works miracles in that regard as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that answer. Let's go with the next one. Why are we so fixated with the love slash pain idea?
That's a good question. I have that still too. Let me quickly ponder it a bit. Why are we so fixated with that? I'm not sure if that is a final or right answer, but what comes first to my mind is our ego, the part in our brain committed to our survival, is addicted to being right. The ego wants to be right about everything. So when the ego experiences again and again disappointment, pain, hurt in a love relationship, the ego, very simple, I said before, the brain thinks very simple. Okay, I'm in a love relationship. I experience pain right now. So there must be some kind of logical connection, like a cause and effect kind of relationship. And I'm not experiencing that the first time. This is now the 28th times or the 115th time that while I'm in a love relationship, I feel not heard, I feel abandoned, I feel misused, I feel manipulated, I feel hurt. So, wow, love really sucks. Love hurts. So the brain makes this logical connection, the ego in our brain. And because it wants to be right about that, because if it were not right about that, that would mean it makes a mistake. It would mean it's stupid. It's creating all this pain, and we don't like is being wrong. The ego doesn't like to be wrong. The ego doesn't like to take responsibility for its own pain. So it's much easier for the brain, for the ego to believe love hurts and reinforce that belief. Love hurts, love hurts. Put a nice melody over it, and the whole world is singing, love hurts. Oh. And so we all believe that as if that were the truth. Whereas I believe the exact opposite is the truth, that love heals all pain, and that where love is, there's no space for pain. And yeah, that's spontaneously my answer to this very clever question.
Thank you. There's a big cliche there, right? With the love, needing to be a hurtful relationship. I don't agree either with it. Let's see. Okay. The next one says, let me see if I can read well. Should a couple be like-minded in values and lifestyle? Should a couple be like-minded in values and lifestyle?
That's a good question too. Very practical for partnership, because loving each other doesn't mean necessarily automatically that going through life together, moving together, and creating an everyday life system, a family together, is necessarily working. These are still two different things. So, my answer is values, I would always say, have to have a huge overlap. And let me define what I understand under values. For me, values are something like an internal compass. It's values. For example, in my case, love is one of my top values. Freedom is huge. Creativity, learning, evolution, growth. So integrity. Oh my gosh, integrity, truth, super important for me. So I'm very aware of my values and how their hierarchy, which ones are the more important ones. If I had a partner I feel already when I feel into it. I couldn't be in a partnership with someone whose values would not be aligned with that or would overlap. When it comes to lifestyle and hobbies and these kind of things, I know from my own experience, we can be very different. I mean, my husband is a super sportive, outdoorsy, nearly fear-free, healthy paragliding, mountain biking, outdoor guy, and I'm not. I'm a big city girl from Germany, and I cut even our gorgeous honeymoon on the south island of New Zealand short because there was just too much nature for me, and I had my nature collar. So my husband and I, we have from our interests or hobbies or things we like to do, we are very very different, and yet because our values are so aligned, so the key essence, what's important for us, there is zero conflict. We are safe with each other in the relationship. We know that we are safe with each other, and that gives us the space and the freedom to explore some things alone without each other. For example, my husband is a vivid paraglider. He does cross country paragliding. He will be gone the next 2 days, flying in the sky, and I give him the space throughout our marriage for 18 years now. I would never ever literally cut his wings and not allow him to do that, because I know it makes him happy. And when he comes back, oh my gosh, the sparkles in his eyes. This is so, I mean, I get back this amazing, inspired, spiritually fulfilled bird from heaven. So why would I cut his wings? On the other hand, I love to travel to self-help gurus, to spiritual events, to conferences. I love public speaking. I am a professionally paid keynote speaker. My husband is not much interested in that. He doesn't join me doing all these things. Sometimes he does, but it's a different world, which I live more myself. So to answer your question, values and lifestyle, for me, these are two different things. Values, I say, yes, as higher the overlap, as better and more harmonious it is. Lifestyle wise, because when you are loving each other unconditionally and feel safe with each other, there is enough space you can give each other to explore certain things. And when it comes to living together, yes, I must admit our taste, how we create, for example, our house, our furniture, again, there we have a huge overlap. And in some areas, we are very different. And this is why I have, for example, my own art studio, which is designed by my inner little girl with lots of pink and kitsch. My husband would not like that. He is more the minimalist and more modern and clear lines, etc. But that's fine because he designs his office is his space, my office is my space, and I have my art studio, and he has his man cave. So sometimes you maybe need more space to express all the different lifestyle choices. But I think there can be lots of differences, lots of diversity, and it doesn't need to be the same.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. This one, I like this one. It's cute. How long it took you to realize he was the one?
Oh my gosh, that you will shock you now how quickly that was. And I remember it so well because I was so in love with my own falling in love story that I repeated it in my brain a lot of times so that I can remember it. So it was in January 2000. I had birthday on a Tuesday, the 17th. That was the day my Peter got introduced to me, and I ticked him off as not my type. Then the next day, Wednesday the 18th, throughout the nights on the Thursday, I had, and I make it short now here time wise, I had this sleepless night where I did a lot of processing and integrating the last puzzle pieces in my psyche, in my brain, which were standing between me and true love. And the next morning on Thursday, now the 19th, I was in a blissful state of really being in love with the gender of men, with all men. And I was at this conference, in this big conference room where there were around 1,000 participants. And we did a lot of exercise. It was a spiritual conference. We did a lot of exercises about attention management. And I remember I met him at around 10:20, 10:30 on Thursday morning, the 19th. And I did something with my attention beam. It touched him. He started to recognize me as someone he wants to get to know. And we started playing, flirting, working through the exercises for the rest of the day with each other. And on the next day, a little bit over 24 hours after I met him, on Friday afternoon around 3, I remember it because I looked at my watch at that time, around 3:20, I was with him in my hotel room, very innocent, so no wrong pictures here. And we were listening to music from the movie Titanic, laying on the sofa. And the way he held me there, I was a moment, I know it exactly how it felt. It was a moment where an inner knowing, and I live very spiritual. I have a strong connection with my intuition, and it goes through a kinesthetic awareness in my body. I just knew on that sofa at around 3:20 on Friday, what is it now, 89, the 20th of January 2000, I knew in that moment he is the one. Because the inner alignment, the clicking in me, the kinesthetic knowing, and this feeling that I'm finally at home with another person on this planet. And that was just clear. And from that moment on, I've never doubted it. What do we have now? 2018, 1st of June, I never doubted it. And it got reinforced and more rooted and more grounded when we got married on the same year, in December 2000, on a beautiful beach in New Zealand. The wedding was also a spiritual, deep, magical ritual for me, which deepened that feeling which I got exactly. So it was a tiny bit over 24 hours, and I knew it. Is that a prediction that is always working like this? No, don't make a rule out of it. I just would like to share that everyone who is willing to allow their intuition to speak to them through their body's wisdom, I believe the body knows. You have a kinesthetic knowing of the truth. You have a kinesthetic knowing of alignment, of fitting, of the perfect match. And that is not something which comes from your mind. So please don't allow your ego to talk you into it or out of it. A clear knowing, and I say that as someone who read over 12,000 books, has 2 university degrees. I really fed my mind a lot and lived from my mind a few decades of my life, till I humbly, embarrassingly had to admit, oh my gosh, the true truth, the true knowing is not coming from the mind, it's coming from the body. So your intuition will speak to you through your kinesthetic awareness of your body when you are with the one.
That is beautiful. I love it. Let's go with the next one. What do you think about women initiating courtship?
That is a challenging question because it is so depending on cultural context. I grew up in Germany at a time, I'm born 1967, where the environment encouraged women's liberation. So I was super confident. I initiated courtship. I did a lot of things which I know in other cultures or other times would be dangerous for women to do. So I'm a bit cautious about how to answer that question. I personally believe as more we as humanity, as society move towards true partnership on eye level, that we are also overcoming these old games of like gender games. For example, my mom, she is born 1936. She indoctrinated me with a lot of outdated paradigms. She always told me, I have to laugh about it, but I heard it thousands of times when I was a young girl. She always said, Sylvia, my dear, please be like a castle, like, which the man has to conquer. Because if you are too easy to get, the man will lose interest. Because men are like warriors, they want the fight, they want to conquer. So be like the castle with the thick walls so that the man has to fight for you. Things like this. I heard it so often. And as a teenager, I rebelled against that. I thought, what stupid, old, outdated stuff. This is not how it works. This is not what I like. And yet, and that is now the work of subconsciousness and consciousness, because my subconscious mind, having heard it so often, thousands of times, believed it. So I created some awkward situations where I was initiating the courtship and the men didn't like it because their indoctrination or belief system was still stuck in the old patriarchal romantic paradigm of they had to be the knight and rescue me. But to be honest, I'm more intelligent. I was and am more intelligent than most men I meet. I'm strong. I mean, I was early financially independent, straight out of school. I financed my own university degrees. So I didn't need to be rescued. And yet I'm a romantic. I'm still reading love novels, etc. So I think we are in a very messy time of history where we women are not any longer the fragile princesses which need rescuing, and yet we are romantically indoctrinated that a part of us wants that and wants the knight on the white horse. So it's messy. It's messy. We are transitional. um, I don't regret that initiated courtship so often. I don't regret all the wonderful naughty things I did, which a lot of people believed only men can do or are supposed to do. For me, it was also part of my research. When I had my 4-year intense research project, I deliberately did things my environment had always told me this is something only men do or can do or should do or are allowed to do. I mean, whatever you can think of, I did it as long it was legal and ethical. Yeah, I never I would never abused a man physically or things like this. But everything legal and ethical a man does, I tested it and tried it out because I wanted to know. I wanted to know if what society told me that men do and women do, if that is really true. And in my experience, it's not. It's not true. It's just a convention which is historically grown and then decided. And I'm way too too stubborn and too free spirited to just accept conventions. I challenge them all. So if you feel called to court, do it, and yet be sensitive in which environment you are in, and just be aware that there is a risk that it backfires. I had several men, I irritated the heck out of them, and well, thanks God, because it didn't work out for me. And now I'm together with my man, and he loves me because I'm independent and confident and strong and do what I want to do. So yeah, I hope that is an inspiring answer. It was a bit messy.
Yeah. I think it was. This is almost the last one. Do you think nowadays men are more sensitive than they used to be a couple decades ago?
There was something broken up. So what is with men like a few decades ago? Can you repeat the
Do,
question?
do you think nowadays men are more sensitive that they used to be?
Wait, I want to define what sensitive means. I believe that men were always sensitive, but they lack the awareness to their own sensitivity. Because the patriarchy as a culture hasn't not only suppressed us women, it has suppressed men as well. Men paid a different high price for their higher status in patriarchy. For example, that their sensitivity, which was always there, had no space. Yeah, like boys don't cry. This is for me summarizes it. That's such a stupid, horrible command. I mean, every little boy wants to cry, and then it hurts his sentence, and then it learns early on that I'm not supposed to cry because that would prove I'm not manly enough. I'm not a boy. I'm not growing into a man. So I think men are as sensitive as women are. It's just that they are trained and conditioned to have no awareness of that. When I started my career as a top executive coach in 1997, I remember one of my first cases that really touched me deeply was a gentleman. He was over 20 years older than me, and he was working for a big corporation where he was known to be the one who has to fire people. So when the company went through restructuring and they had to fire a lot of people, he was called because he had this image of being the tough guy who can do it, who just pulled through it. And he came into the coaching with me and told me under tears that he had to close his heart in order to do his job, in order not to lose his job, in order to make the money to finance his family. He had his wife and he had two children. They lived quite well because he was a top executive. And yet, closing his heart had nearly cost him his marriage. He said it had cost him his children because he was so focused on his job and his heart so closed that he didn't develop a real close relationship with his children. And they were now in their later teenage years, close to leaving the home. So he was such a beautiful soul, so sensitive, and he was highly aware of the brutal high price he has paid to function in a corporation which was completely the summary, the personification of the patriarchal culture of dominance and win losers and bottom line focus, etc., etc. So I know from the work of hundreds of with top executives who superficially are known to be tough guys or even brutal. I had them all crying in my coaching office and sharing with me, and a lot of them came to me asking me, Sylvia, teach me emotional intelligence. I want to raise my emotional intelligence. I want to understand my emotions. I want to share my emotions. I mean, I feel now emotional because I feel strongly connected with the crying heart of men in the patriarchy. This is why, even though my school is the Becker Hill Women's Empowerment School, I serve as many men as I serve women because men are suffering too. They are just suffering very differently.
Thank you, Sylvia. That is definitely something very few people want to talk about, and I want to thank you for that. I agree with you, and the fact that it's just a different price. But I agree with you. Thank you for giving us that answer. And the last question that we have, do you hear me well?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. How do we quiet our brains and start feeling more?
That's a beautiful last question. Let's do it right now. Let's all take a deep breath and allow yourself when you breathe out to make a sound. Just doing that simple act of breathing deeply in and out. I have closed my eyes. You probably can see it if you're watching it here on YouTube. Closing your eyes, breathing deeply, making a sound. It starts with that. It's It starts with that. It starts with I'm sitting here in my business office. I'm professionally dressed because of you see me here with the camera, but I have naked feet, for example, and I move them once in a while during the interview here over. I have a very thick wool sheep wool carpet from New Zealand, so I move my feet because staying grounded and having naked feet to and wool, which from sheep, which is such a natural material. I live here in Southern California with a lot of outdoor nature space. I have a half acre, so I take breaks. Because my mind is very fast, it's very full, it's very creative. I don't meditate any longer, like twice a day, long times. I've done in my 20s. I went through a lot of different meditation schools. My personal favorite is Vipassana, 10 days, 11 hours a day, silent meditation retreat. So now for me, it's pretty quick and easy to calm my mind. Have an internal switch I developed over the year I can turn on. And yet, for everyone who's starting out and who is highly stressed, breathing, closing your eyes, having your feet naked, if ideally on grass, walking on earth, getting out into nature, hugging a tree, doing yard work, weeding. Oh my gosh, weeding is perfect. My personal private favorite is going into my art studio and painting. There is something when I take a brush into my hand and I work with the canvas and the colors. My mind is just it's gone, and there is just the brush, the sound of the hair of the brush on the canvas, and the joy of I love colors, the joy for the colors, and my soul is just purring and expanding, and there's no space for my brain to think. But that's my personal way. There are millions of ways. I know a lot of people experience it when they go to the gym or when they go jogging or when they walk their dog. My husband experiences silence in his brain when he flies like a bird with his paraglider, just carried by the wind without motor. So my invitation is to find your own way. And during times of stress, start with your breath. And when you are super stressed, like having an anxiety or panic attack, one beautiful thing is we can also do here to close here tonight together. Rub your hands gently against each other till you feel they are a bit warm or tingling. And now I do it here in front of you. I put my elbows on my desk. You can also put your elbows on your knees. And then you put one of your hands against your forehead, and the other hand you put on the back of your head on your neck, and you are allowing yourself to rest your head with your forehead in your one hand. You close your eyes, and you allow yourself this beautiful feeling that you are carrying yourself, that you are holding the weight of our heavy brain, our heavy mind with all the heavy thoughts. You're just holding yourself. You feel your hands, and you hold and carry yourself. You breathe deeply in and out. And you enjoy a beautiful, quiet moment with yourself. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Definitely enlightening. On behalf of the Mindalia TV team, we want to truly thank you for sharing with us. It's knowledge, it's invaluable, and the way you convey it is, more special. Before leaving, just we want to remind our audience we are a nonprofit organization, and our only mission is to raise consciousness around the world, to share knowledge. And if you want to help us share that knowledge and have that knowledge reach as many people as possible, just subscribe to our channel, like this video, leave us a positive comment down below, or even share with someone that you know that is going to be, taking or enjoying the benefit of the knowledge that we share today with Sylvia. Sylvia, before leaving, we want to ask you to say goodbye to our audience.
Thank you. Bye, everyone, and especially for the questions. I loved them. They were all really powerful, genius questions.
Thank you for being with us at Mindalia live streaming, and until next time, goodbye.
Bye.